The Obama administration was the biggest grift and the biggest heist that I ever lived through. And it was all done under, he was the first black president. And his very spectacular, my fellow Americans. I'm not a fan of Obama administration, even though I did vote for him. At that time, I was super uninformed about anything dealing with politics. I was super uninformed about anything dealing with governments. However, when I realized that administration was such a grift, I went and I started to do research for myself, and I went another way. I realized that I was a person that had conservative views, and I really had different perspectives on a lot of things. And because of this whole grift of Obama, it taught me not to do that again when it comes to government or politics. This is probably going to be a two-part thing of the reason why and another thing is one of the reasons why I'm very much more vocal when it comes to politics now. I had these views and I had these talks behind the scene, but I'm publicly coming out with them because y'all don't like to read or go research. I'm not saying be an expert, my goodness, but be a research. One of the grifts that he sold was this whole Affordable Care Act. Now, if you come from that industry, because I did, I knew it was trash. As a matter of fact, the only people that's winning out of the Affordable Care Act is the insurance company and the insurance companies that are getting paid by the government to manage them. They're not necessarily managing. The most that they do is majority of the claims they deny. Hence why healthcare has forever changed ever since the Affordable Care Act.
This woman is cooking. Let me also give you a couple different things. First of all, his landmark legislation, the thing that he wanted to make sure that he got done, because you got to remember, when Obama got elected, the whole country was trash. And so people were looking for anything because Bush was so garbage. Man, listen, y'all think that y'all going through a little something or whatever, so on and so forth. And I'm going to always stand on this because I remember I was 26 years old. I had a newborn baby and I ain't had no job because I had just got fired from the steel mill, which was turned out to be the greatest thing that ever happened to me. But his landmark legislation was the Affordable Care Act. And then I think that he's also really remembered for the fact that he was a huge advocate for the alphabet community, which obviously both of those are trash. And one of them continue to proliferate, and he still stands for it, while at the same time continuing to ruin the fabric of America. Obama turned out to be one of the biggest grifters, and he sold it all on the backs of hope. And he leaned into the idea, especially with black people, and black people ain't been the same since. Black people are going to vote based off of identity politics no matter what. The fact that he was able to articulate his point and he was smooth and all of this other stuff, he had all of the factors that allowed for you to believe in what the Democrats were selling at that time, because again, the Bush II was one of the worst presidents. I mean, you can throw Biden right there. I think that at this point it's neck and neck, so we're just gonna have to let history, do its thing. But Bush was in my opinion, the worst president of all time in my lifetime so far that I was able to, actually able to live through. And so when you think about Obama and he came through, people didn't care if he was black, they didn't care if he was white, they didn't care about none of this. They didn't even care about principle. They was just so broke that they was looking for a change. And so Obama put in the Affordable Care Act. And again, we reminded y'all this during the election, but I'm going to remind you again that for 12 out of the 16 years before Trump became president again this last time, while we recording this video, which I think that he's doing a phenomenal, incredible job, Democrats controlled the presidency for the last 12 of the 16 years. And so if you want to pay attention to all of the foundation of why we are in this space to where we got to make America great again and why we got to fix things and why black people are now going over to conservative views and they going back to being Republican, which me personally, it took me a little bit longer after, going into adulthood to shed that Democrat plantation mentality, because it was indoctrinated in us that even though we were conservative, in the ways that we spend our money and our religious views, our spirituality, and how it is that we see government, we vote blue no matter what, because it's just what we do. We vote Democrat. And the fact that we had got blackity black on the black hand side, in our faces. And Obama, that just solidified it. It was like, you better not vote against it. So I also voted for Obama both times. Not because I felt like he was the best person for the job, but partially because I was broke and, looking for a change. Anything would do. And the other side of it is that, as a black person, similar to how the 92 and the 78% is operating today, you was taught to vote black no matter what.
And to be quite frank, you're better off getting private PPO insurance. And if you cannot afford private PPO insurance, then go get a healthcare savings account,
And
and you can
HSA.
actually negotiate self-pay rates, which will actually become.
And that she is absolutely correct. I have a concierge doctor now. Even the prescriptions that we may have to get for the family or something like that, 9 times out of 10 is cheaper than what you have to pay in the copay for the insurance. It's crazy. It's a lot of things, but I ain't gonna get into that right now. Let me let her cook.
They end up being way cheaper than even getting the Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act, especially some of those plans where they get kickback or they're subsidized, they're not accepted everywhere. So you're back to the same situation of people getting massive amount of healthcare billed and people not having access to proper healthcare. The other things that I researched, that I realized that that he was the clear case of identity politics, but the reason why his administration to me was the biggest heist ever done in my lifetime was the micro wars that he instigated and he started under his administration. Seven of them to be exact. Then it was the fact that he made these tech companies oligarchs. He signed, I forgot which act or bill that he signed, and he basically made them the richest companies ever in exchange for information from my fellow American citizens. Then, if they didn't even add more spruce to the fire, he allowed the legalization of marriage between man and man and woman and woman. As if, why they didn't do that with all the other presidents? Why they had to do it underneath him? Then
He actually, on the campaign trail before he became president, he actually was speaking just like the Republicans speak today. The Democrat Party of today is completely different than the Democrat Party of yesteryear prior to Obama. After Obama, it was over. The Democrat Party just became a raging liberal, left-leaning party that was more radical than you ever seen before, and then they started censoring people on top of it. Yes, he did.
it's the fact that he was head capitan in immigration. Until this day, nobody will address how was his administration able to get away with being head capitan of immigration and deportation. So the fact that he gets on this podcast and basically try to say that, there's a rise of authoritarian, sir, you're talking about yourself. We're not saying that, hey, that is not true. There does seem a rise of stuff. However, sir, I will never take anything from your mouth because you were the epitome of that. And you did it based off of the first black president.
She kicking facts. I'm definitely going to link back to her inside of the description because it's the right thing to do to give credit. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Teach Henley, 40% off your first order, 20% off of life. Let me know what you think about what she's saying. Is she right or is she wrong?